Welcome back. You're watching One-on-One. We're speaking with the former president of Costa Rica, Jose Maria Figueres. Now, when you became president in 1994, you were actually the youngest president in Central America. How prepared were you? Of course, you had the family history, but how prepared were you as a person, as an individual, for the task ahead of you?
You're never prepared to become the president, Riz. No matter how much experience you've had, no matter how many posts you have gone, no matter what you have done in your life, you are never prepared to become the head of state. And it takes you about a year, or a little more than even a year, to assemble government in a way where it begins to become a cohesive team of players more than individual stars in this ministry or that secretary or with this responsibility. So I don't think this is an issue on which you have to come in young or older or whatever. Politics is often opportunities and circumstance.
At times, the decisions you made were considered quite controversial. Were you able to cope with the kind of pressures when people said, well, what is he doing?
Often my decisions were controversial, not only at times. Right. Riz, I had been the president of the railroad system in Costa Rica in my previous experience. As president, I closed the railroad system. And I closed it because it had no future. I preferred to take the money that we were throwing away in a 200-year-old railroad, which was running a deficit, and invest it in computers to put in the classrooms of students in public schools all over Costa Rica.
What do you feel were the defining moments in your life and in your career? Was it being elected president?
That was one defining moment, but there were defining moments before that. My 4 years at West Point were a defining moment in terms of my character building. I learned a lot about team working. I learned a lot about trusting people, about having very clear objectives when one wants to accomplish a task. And those 4 years were really very instrumental in shaping my character and a way of life which I have fulfilled thereafter. They were so shaping that I wanted my daughter, Eugenia, to attend West Point, but I couldn't convince her. Nevertheless, the presidency was a defining moment, and there were several hard decision inflection points during the government that were also very much tipping points.
In 2003, you became the first CEO of the World Economic Forum. That must have been an interesting time, too. What was your main goal, your main task when you were doing that?
Well, I left Costa Rica to go and work in Europe because an ex-president in such a small country as Costa Rica has no other opportunity but to stay involved in politics, whether he wishes it or not. I wanted to see the rest of the world. I wanted to see what other countries were doing, how they were tackling development challenges, what of other places we could adapt to the Costa Rican circumstance that would continue to render us a more competitive nation that would be able to increase the well-being for our peoples. And therefore, I accepted, as of 2000, Riz, really, an offer by a headhunter to come to the World Economic Forum as a managing director. So I joined them at the end of 2000. By the year 2003, I had become the first CEO of the World Economic Forum. You attend Davos, you know it's a special place, and it's a very good organization with a mission of improving the state of the world. There's a lot to be done in terms of improving the state of the world.
When you look at the challenges you've taken on through your life, has there ever been a moment where the pressure is so great you say, yeah, this is hard to handle, I can't take any more of this?
Yes, there have been several of those moments. Yeah? There have been several of those moments when one says, well, where do I go from here? How do I get out of this situation? And there I have to say, Riz, that my family has been of tremendous, tremendous support. Just caring, loving, around me, accompanying me through difficult circumstances. We all go through those moments in our life. And it's always nice to have caring people around that help one move through transition and then pick up the pieces and go forward again.
Now, in terms of the way you shape your life now from the lessons you've learned, what are your priorities now?
I want to continue to work on global challenges. I feel that in the world of today, we have been able to advance a tremendous amount in terms of integrating our economic workings. But we haven't been able to integrate in many other ways. We often speak of a global village, and I think we do ourselves a tremendous disfavor by speaking of a global village. In a village, Riz, every individual has his own life and does his own things, but they all collectively understand that there is an ulterior, superior benefit in working together as a village. At the global level, we're not doing that. We need global polity. We need better global coordination. We need to reform many of the institutions in the international architecture. And we need to do that fast if we are to tackle some of the most pressing challenges we have ever faced. Climate change, Riz, for me is one of those big, not big, tremendous events, a defining event for humanity. The science is in. The scientists have agreed that we're facing climate change. The math is simple. Today, Riz, we have 385 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. Before the industrial age, we had no more than 280. We are accumulating 2.5 parts per million every year, which means that in the 90 years to the end of the century, we will have another 225 plus 385, which we start today, is over 600 parts per million. Scientists tell us, Riz, that if we have up there more than 500 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere, we have a 50% chance of affecting temperature in a way that we will have either plus or minus 5 degrees centigrades. The last time the Earth had plus 5 degrees centigrades, alligators were swimming in the North Pole. And the last time we had minus 5 degrees centigrades was only 10,000 years ago in the Ice Age. We need to bring that back under control. That is an individual responsibility because you can do things, I can do things, but it's also a collective responsibility which requires better global polity.
Was there ever a time in your life where you felt there was a shadow of your father which you had to live up to?
You cannot be a son or daughter of my father in Costa Rica or parts of Latin America without feeling that immense shadow over you. He was, as I already mentioned, the person who abolished the army in Costa Rica, the person who set up the wherewithal of the modern Costa Rica, the person who fought other dictatorships in Central America and the Caribbean, fought to topple them, sent arms to revolutionary movements around Central America and the Caribbean that were fighting against dictatorships. So you cannot feel but caressed by that sombra, we would say in Spanish, by that shadow. But in my case, it has never been something that has kept me from doing what I thought I could do. It is something there has been more of a companion than an impediment for my life.
Jose Maria Figueres, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Riz.